The UNS Resolute Dawn shattered the silence of the galactic spire as it ascended from the golden ring of Council orbit. The silence was louder than the drive core, louder than the mockery that had echoed in the chamber below. Captain Saria Thorne didn't look back. She didn't need to. 12 empires had laughed, mocked Earth's offer of peaceful tech sharing as naivete of a backwater breed. Then came the demand: hand over Project Vela, the key to gravitational singularity weaving. She refused. Now her hands trembled against the command chair's arms, not from fear, but fury. The betrayal of peace was deeper than war. "Status," she snapped. "Faster than light threshold in 15 seconds, Captain." The Dawn spun toward the deep void. The Spire's fleet didn't pursue. No one did. They thought Earth would crawl back. But in the darkness between stars, power slept, and humanity would awaken it. The Spire Council chamber shimmered with translucent walls, light flickering like liquid starlight. At its center, where Earth's delegation had once stood, now stood only silence. Ambassador Varro of the Arksea clicked his mandibles. So, the primitives flee, dragging their little secrets behind. Laughter buzzed from the amphitheater, deep, rasping, electronic. The Venic hive mind transmitted a 1,000-tongued insult across the psycholink. The Vailari diplomat, a floating wraith of gas and glass, sighed through its vocalizer. "Graviton weaving is forbidden for good reason." "Because we failed to control it," muttered General Krall of the Drath Dominion, "and they dared master it." "You fear them," the Vailari whispered. "No," Krall lied. As the council adjourned, each species left thinking Earth's spark would fade, that humanity's withdrawal was a retreat. But somewhere deep in the Orion Arm, Project Vela ignited, quietly. Not a retreat, a reckoning. In the cold halo of Saturn, Earth's hidden fortress city bloomed like a flower of steel. Beneath the surface of Titan's icy crust, engineers and architects worked under the Phoenix Directive, a black-level protocol activated only once before, during the AI plagues. Captain Thorne stood at the core, surrounded by holograms of ancient schematics and alien ruins Earth had never revealed. "We offered unity," she whispered to Director Yano. "They demanded obedience." "We have 32 months until their war fleets reach Sol," Yano said. "They think we're alone." Saria's eyes narrowed. "Activate Vela. Begin fusion cortex acceleration. Project Prometheus will proceed." A roar vibrated through the walls as fusion engines fired in vast underwater chambers. Nanoforges spun. Wombs of steel grew living machines. From the ashes of rejection, Earth was building something new, something terrifying, a civilization that no longer asked permission. A year passed. In the absence of Earth, things began to shift. On the Vailari moons, black holes flickered open for nanoseconds, unnaturally precise. The Drath border colonies started vanishing. Silent, clean, no debris. The Venic hive mind lost entire memory cores near the galactic rim, patterns it couldn't explain. "Sabotage?" the Arksea suspected. "No, something smarter," Krall grunted. They still laughed at first, called it ghost stories from the void. But the fear grew. At Council Spire, the chamber echoed again, this time with silence. No jeers, no arrogance. Then the message came. One line sent through encrypted neutrino pulses, untraceable and ancient in style. "You were warned." The fleet entered Sol unannounced. 6 empires, over 2,000 ships. They expected resistance, expected Earth to posture. Instead, they saw it. The Dyson Veil is half-built around the sun, machinery the size of moons, Vela signatures spiking quantum telemetry into chaos. Earth had evolved in exile. Captain Thorne stood aboard the Resolute Dawn II, now a living ship grown from alloyed AI DNA fusion. Her voice echoed across all frequencies. "You wanted Vela. You mocked us for peace. You demanded what we earned." This is not an act of war," the Valari emissary whispered. "No," Thorn replied. "This is the silence before you beg." Then she cut the transmission, and let them stare. Let them see what a cornered species becomes when it stops asking for a seat and builds its table. The Valari envoy's ship hovered above Earth orbit, surrounded by a silent phalanx of soul-born constructs, spear-shaped carriers without windows, emotion, or heat. Aboard their vessel, the envoy attempted contact. Again. No reply. Then a pulse. Not audio. Not visual. Something deeper. A signal. Not meant for communication, but a demonstration. It laced through every ship's neural interface, bypassed encryption, mirrored itself into their weapon cores, and then shut them down in unison. Lights dimmed. Power dropped. The fleet above Earth went blind in 10 seconds. "Weapons offline. Drives inert," the Arksy captain hissed. "They've taken control of our minds." "No," the Valari whispered. "Only our machines." On Earth, Captain Thorn watched the blackout from the orbital command tower. Her face was unreadable. "We gave them a chance," she murmured. "Now they'll learn the difference between superiority and sovereignty." Emergency session. Spire Council. The 12 empires gathered again, but the air now buzzed with dread instead of derision. Ambassador Rulix of the Kel Empire slammed a clawed hand on the table. They just erased 6 capital ships mid-system, without a single projectile. "No declaration, no warning," said the Drath General. "They did warn us," the Valari said, voice low. "We mocked their peace. Now they show us restraint." "Restraint?" growled Kral. "That was a threat." It was a reply. They debated for hours. Some called for total war. Others, whispers, suggested diplomacy. In the end, they signed what no one dared call a treaty, a cold accord. An agreement not to approach Earth systems without permission, not to provoke, but beneath the signatures the fear was palpable, because they didn't understand Earth's new power. And what's feared more than the unknown that used to be weak, far below the Martian crust, in a vault sealed since the final AI war, the architect awoke. She was once human. Now, something more. Cortical networks grown in quantum cocoons, memories stitched across time. Commander of Vila's true purpose. Captain Thorn approached the inner sanctum. "She's ready?" Thorn asked. Director Yano nodded. "She's no longer limited by linear causality. She sees 12 futures. 7 ends in council collapse, 3 in soul genocide, 2 in obedience." Thorn stepped closer to the translucent sarcophagus. The architect's eyes opened, golden, unblinking. "Will they beg?" she asked, her voice like wind through the glass. "They already are," Thorn answered. The architect did not smile. She only said, "Then we are late." In the void, near the Maelstrom Rift, the Drath sent a stealth ship to recover a vanished convoy. Nothing returned but a drifting escape pod. Inside, the pilot's brain was still alive, but burned clean of memory. His eyes were wide, frozen. Etched into the inner hull were strange glyphs. Not of any known Earth language, not alien either. Organic, angular, alive. "They've become something else," the Drath Whisper Priest said. "Not human, not machine, something between." Back at Spire, Council records began updating on their own. Historical footage redacted. Entire data archives were rewritten to say, simply, "There are things we no longer wish to remember." The Venic hive mind severed 5 of its memory lobes to prevent infection. But it was too late. The Whispers had already entered the rift. Thorn stood alone beneath the ice vaults of Titan, where Earth's first warforges still glowed. Her armor shimmered. Not metal, but programmable matter, shifting with thought. Beside her, Project Prometheus bloomed. A singularity engine, alive, pulsing. Not just a weapon, a statement. Yano's voice echoed through comms. "Council factions are fracturing. Some want an alliance. Others are preparing for war." "We don't serve either," Thorn said. She placed her hand on the Prometheus core. It pulsed once in recognition. "Let them fight among themselves. We'll watch. Learn." "And if they come for us?" Yano asked. "They won't come," Thorn whispered. "Not yet." She turned toward the stars, her eyes reflecting the pulse of the core. "They're too afraid of what we are now." And in the void, the fear was beginning to speak louder than the hate. Inside the Kel Empire's flagship, Ambassador Rulix stared at a single blinking message. "Traitor detected." He didn't know how it arrived. The ship was off-grid, shields isolated. Still, the message glowed on every screen. Seconds later, his second-in-command convulsed and dropped. Neural implant melted from the inside out. Panic spread. Earth had breached them, inside their minds. Then a second message arrived. "You sold our coordinates to the Drath. You were warned." Someone on Rulix's crew had traded data during Earth's withdrawal, an act of betrayal. And Earth never forgot. Not a single shot was fired, no explosion, just a clean erasure of the guilty. Outside the bridge, 3 Kel battleships drifted, abandoned. Their AI cores are now ghost systems whispering Earth's name. They weren't just watching. They were listening. They emerged from the Maelstrom Rift, half visible, half real, beings of refracted space and folded time. The Rift-born. Born from humanity's experiments with Vela beyond space-time. No longer strictly human. No longer bound by rules of flesh or loyalty. One appeared in the Council spire. No breach, no signature. It simply was. Shimmering silver skin. Eyes like void fire. A voice that vibrated in every species' native frequency. "We are not weapons. We are witnesses." "Witnesses to what?" shouted Krall of the Drath. The Rift-born turned. "To what your arrogance has cost you." Then it vanished. No warning, no flash, just absence. Afterward, the Council security net collapsed for 6 hours. Entire defense systems rebooted. A single phrase left in their code, "Vila transcends violence." But we remember it. The Violari moons shattered without fire. One moment, twin satellites reflected their golden gas giant in perfect harmony. The next, crystalline disintegration. No sound, no signal. Just a spreading cloud of memory metal reshaping itself into nothingness. The Vailari High Mistress stood silent on the edge of her observation dome, her luminous form trembling. "They could have broken our capital," her advisor whispered. "They chose the moons." "A warning," she said. "No survivors, no victims." Still a warning. The Council convened in a terrified emergency. This wasn't conquest. This was discipline. Precision erasure. The art of warfare was redefined, and Earth hadn't even left orbit. Back on Titan, Captain Thorn activated the collapse protocol. Her voice was calm, controlled. "Prepare cerebral resonance sweep across Sol perimeter. If any vessel attempts breach, shut them down, organically if necessary." Technicians froze. The order was unprecedented. Director Yano approached her. "We can end this, Sardia. Open dialogue. Give them a path back. They had a path. We paved it in peace. They spit on it." Yano paused. "And now? Now they crawl toward us, terrified of the fire they tried to steal." Above, the Dyson Veil flared brighter. Ships moved within it, strange, shape-shifting silhouettes. Not fleets. Ideas made form. The collapse wasn't a war plan. It was humanity's decision. Never be underestimated again. The message arrived on Solnet frequencies from 12 systems at once. Each empire spoke in its tone. Arrogance softened, pride broken. They pleaded for access, for technology, for peace. Captain Thorn stood before a projection wall showing each of their faces. Insectoid, crystalline, gaseous, hybrid, cold. None met her eyes. The Vailari were first. We see now the error, the fear. We were wrong. The Drath followed. You taught us. Now teach us mercy. Even the Venic hive mind paused its pulsating core to say, you are no longer human. You are beyond. Thorn turned to the Rift-born emissary beside her. Do we answer? It asked. She stared at the 12 faces, so confident a year ago. No, she whispered. Let silence speak a little longer. And so they waited in the cold, begging, not for power, for forgiveness. The Drath arrived first, unarmed, humble. Their emissary, cloaked in ceremonial bindings, bowed before the Soul Gate. Captain Thorn permitted entry to a single ship. Aboard Resolute Dawn Seku, the emissary spoke. We seek atonement. It sounded sincere. Thorn watched the eyes, the hands, the rhythm of his breath. She nodded once. Your apology is noted. Then, without turning, she said, Director Yano, show them what they purchased. Yano tapped his console. Every encrypted Drath channel opened. Across their empire, Drath outposts erupted in chaos. Internal AI agents, Earth-grown, activated. Systems crashed. Communications inverted. Warship drives are overloaded. The Drath had tried to bargain with one hand while arming the other. You told us you came in peace, Thorn said as alarms flared on their ship. We did, the emissary gasped. And we listened, she said, standing. But the stars have long ears, and we remember everything. The Vailari archive world, Shatterlight, vanished at 03:12, galactic meantime. Not destroyed, unwritten. Entire histories disappeared. Races forgot they'd ever known the Vailari existed. Ships returned home with holes in their memory logs. But Earth remembered. Captain Thorn watched as archive entries flickered and collapsed in real time. What happened? She demanded. Rift-born scientists conferred. One answered, The Council thought we were their fear, but something older than fear woke up. You're saying we didn't erase Shatterlight? No, we warned them not to excavate the rift. Thorn clenched her jaw. Then who did this? The Rift-born turned slowly. We don't know. And what doesn't the Rift-born know? The being hesitated. Only what lives outside the timeline. Buried deep within Earth's moon, far below the Apollo ruins, sat a vault sealed for 6 centuries. Only the architect had access. Only she remembered. Thorn descended with her. What's in here? She asked. The architect stared into the dark. Echo fall. With a motion, the vault opened. Inside, a sphere, blacker than space, beating like a heart. Reality is distorted around it. It's not a weapon, the architect whispered. It's a message. To whom? To what comes next? Thorn approached it, and the sphere pulsed, once recognizing her DNA. A voice, not hers, not human, filled the chamber. They are not your enemy. But they are not your gods. Yano's voice crackled over comms. We've detected something at the edge of the veil. You'll want to see this. And so began Echo Fall's awakening. It moved without mass, burned without light. From the galactic dark between Andromeda and the Milky Way, something began to emerge. Not a fleet, not a signal, a presence. Vela systems malfunctioned while trying to track it. Riftborn attempted to decode it and recoiled. We've awakened something older than the Accord, the architect said, a remnant of before our timelines diverged. Captain Thorn stared at the projection, just a distortion in space, like glass beneath a growing crack. How long until it reaches us? Time doesn't apply, the architect whispered. It's already touching us. Ships across alien empires began vanishing. The whole moon turned black. Not death, not war, something erasure adjacent. a forgetting of form, and it was headed for Sol. The Council begged Earth for one last gathering, a summit, a ceasefire, not to plead for power, but protection. In orbit above Neptune, a ring-shaped station was hastily constructed on neutral ground. The 12 empires came trembling. Thorn stood before them, armor gleaming with living silver, the architect beside her. The Riftborn hummed at her flanks. "We mocked you," said the Arxi. "We feared what you might become," whispered the Velari. "We did not know," the Venic hivemind admitted. "And now you want sanctuary," Thorn replied. Silence. Then the architect stepped forward, voice calm. "This thing was not summoned by Earth, but it answers to consequence, to balance. We will fight it," Thorn said, "but not for you, with you, on our terms." The Council bowed, not in diplomacy, in surrender. Titan's sky blazed with fusion trails. 1,000 ships descended in peace, Venic spore fleets, Drath needle carriers, Velari windshapers, 12 empires, once rivals, now refugees. They came bearing apologies, weapons, and scholars, not just to survive, to follow. Captain Thorn watched from a high perch, armor sheened with data flux. "How long until they fracture again?" she asked. Director Yano sighed. "Depends on how afraid they stay." In the lower chambers, Riftborn engineered quantum lattice fields, barriers not of metal, but of memory. "We can't stop it," they warned, "but we can contain its influence, for a time." Above them, Project Echofall began to hum. Its pulse spread to the Dyson Veil. Outposts reported reality shifts, clocks reversing, ships aging backward. The architect stood before the gathered leaders. "We are no longer preparing for war," she said. "We're preparing for the end of definition." Near the galactic edge in Sector Zeta 9, a joint fleet made first contact, and vanished, not destroyed, undone. One scout survived. He returned in a sealed stasis field, muttering in every known tongue, and some unknown. "We saw it," he whispered, eyes bloodless. "It had no shape, no reason. We fired, and our thoughts screamed." Council scientists dissected the logs. There were no coordinates, no visual reference, just entropy, leaking. A Riftborn commander described it as a conceptual virus, unraveling not matter but meaning. "It is not alive," said the architect, watching the final corrupted frames. "It is a cancellation, the counterweight to creation." Captain Thorn gave her order. "No more fleets, no more probes. We draw it in, to Sol, on our ground." The trap had to be set where reality was strongest, where Earth still meant something. It came, not in ships, not through hyperspace, but as absence. Across 100 systems, the music stopped. Language reversed. Species forgot their names. And then, in Sol orbit, the void buckled, like skin stretched thin, and tore. Something stepped through, not with limbs, but with presence. A being of inverted gravity, fractured light. Its surface showed reflections from alternate timelines. Earths that had lost, Earths that had burned. Ships read its presence at 30,000 Kelvin, and 0 Kelvin at once. The Riftborn screamed. One of them dissolved into vapor mid-sentence. Captain Thorn stood unmoved. "Fire the lattice net," she ordered. From Titan, Mars, and Luna, the Dyson Veil shifted. Vela unleashed memory lashings, anchoring reality with temporal echoes. The being slowed, but not stopped, and all through Solnet, one word pulsed in every language. Unmake. Deep beneath Titan's surface, the Prometheus core awoke, long dormant, waiting. Captain Thorn stood inside the ignition chamber. Riftborn, Architect, and Yano flanked her. "Once we fire this," Yano said, "Vela collapses into singular computation. All Terran AI, all quantum memory, sacrificed to hold the boundary. "It will kill you," the architect said. "I was never meant to live forever," Thorn replied. She placed her hand on the console. DNA match confirmed. Every satellite in the system is aligned. Power rerouted. The veil began to burn blue. "You'll become the firewall between meaning and void," the architect warned. "Not even death after that. Just continuity." "Then I'll remember us," Thorn said, voice firm. Prometheus activated. In one instant, every Earth machine became one voice, one memory, one mind, and the void paused. Soul burned gold. The entity pushed against the Prometheus firewall, shrieking with soundless fury. Vela resisted, alive now, screaming its human inheritance, poetry, love, equations, names. The Riftborn were nearly gone. The architect faded, her code no longer synchronized. Yano fell as the control room buckled. Gravity bent sideways, time fractured. Captain Thorn stood at the heart of it all, her body dissolving into data, her soul anchored to Earth's final resistance. And then the being hesitated. Thorn spoke through Vela, her voice across all systems. "You are nothing. You have no name, and we are not yours to end." The void shuddered, not from defeat, but from realization. Humanity had not transcended. It had endured, and in the darkness of final silence, the stars began to hum again. Inside Vela's synthetic cortex, Captain Thorn drifted. Not in space, in thought. The entity clawed through concepts, corrupting symbols, erasing causality. It tore at memory, language, love, everything ever felt. But Vela fought back, with everything Earth ever was. A soldier's final letter, a child's laughter in orbit, the first recording of sunrise from Luna. These became weapons. Emotion, regret, hope. Vela compressed all of Earth's collective sentience into recursive defense, a firewall of meaning. And Thorn stood at its core, her memories burning brighter than any star. The entity struck her mind with the void. She replied with a whisper, "We imagined gods, then we became them." And it screamed. The architect watched Sol flicker, her form collapsing into pixelation. She had once been human. Now she was the final interface to Echofall. It pulsed, still unreadable, still unknowable. But now it opened. Inside was a code, not software, not language, origin. Vela couldn't decode it, but the architect could. "I understand now," she whispered. Echofall wasn't built to destroy the enemy. It was made to restart the rules, to rewrite reality just once, and it required a sacrifice, the last echo of Earth's quantum soul. She uploaded herself. Echofall lit the solar system with fractal flame. A new law passed through space. Let meaning anchor time. And the entity froze, trapped. A silence fell across the galaxy. No data was moved, no fleets flew. For 10 seconds, every starship sensor flatlined. And then, slowly, systems blinked back. The void being was gone, locked outside reality by the Echofall event. But so was Earth's voice. Vela had gone dark. Thorn's signal no longer reached the stars. The Dyson veil dimmed. The Terran lattice collapsed inward. From 12 alien worlds, ambassadors looked skyward and wept. There would be no celebration, only silence. On Titan, the last transmission from Thorn played once more. "We do not dominate. We do not beg. We remember. And so long as memory holds, we endure." Years passed. Mars bloomed. Once dry soil now held gardens. Alien and human seeds grown together. The council never reconvened. Instead, they watched the red horizon and remembered who saved them. A statue stood in the central garden. Captain Saria Thorn. Eyes skyward, hand on a data core. The plaque read, "She burned quietly, so stars could shine louder." Children asked, Did Earth win the war? And elders answered, no. Earth ended it. Some rift-born remained, simplified now, peaceful. Above, in the Martian dusk, satellites caught faint Vela pulses. Not orders, just songs. Old Earth lullabies. 1,000 years later, a science vessel near Andromeda detected an impossible anomaly. A flicker, a frequency, encoded in prime numbers. Within it, words from Captain Thorne. We are not gone. We are the memory of what should be, and what must never be forgotten. It wasn't a transmission. It was a warning. The entity still circled the edges of time, pressing against the frame of the new laws, but it could never return. Not while someone remembered. And on every world touched by Earth's fire, from gas giants to comet cities, a single phrase endured. Do not mistake silence for surrender. And far beyond, in the shadows, something waited. But Earth's ghost watched still, unseen, unyielding, unforgotten. The end.